Give Walnut Ridge a call at 812
Victory, Kentucky!
Like, give your fans what they want, you dinguses.
She probably smokes marijuana. Bad, bad girl.
Rubbish!
There's buggers over here.
Back outside. This is the point where he always hits it. Oh! Aaron Harrison beyond belief.
We did it. We beat those British
We beat the
bastards.
British. Suck it, Cornwallis.
10 kids. You're basically pregnant for 20 years. Pregnant or breastfeeding. Just wild. Like, that sounds exhausting.
Potheads. What an adorable bunch of people.
Woodson from the gun, play fake, step it up. He's throwing deep down the near sideline. He's got Johnson. 20, 10, 5, touchdown, Kentucky!
Jesus, Rash, get it together.
Yeah,
It's game day. Come on.
Welcome to Kentucky Roll Call with Walker and Roush.
Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday to you. This is Kentucky Roll Call on Big X Sports Radio. 96.1 FM, 1450 AM. Nick Roush and TJ Walker here on your Wednesday, Hump Day, Weird Wednesday. We're going to have Steven Peake on to pique your interest a little bit later on the show today. Joining us from lovely Ohio is one Nick Roush. Roush, how are you?
I'm doing well. Just feel like I've already had a pretty full day driving up to the OHIO. So ready to rock, ready to roll, ready to dive into some takes, some sports talk. Got here about 30 minutes ago. So, you know, I feel like I'm ready to rip, ready to roll, caught up on everything that happened this morning. And we got some stuff to talk about. So, TJ, how was your Tuesday? Did you have a good one? Was it we've had this discussion in the past. Tuesday, typically the most uneventful day of the week. Shout out to college basketball for giving us Tuesdays in January and February. Some of the worst months of the year. They at least give us something for our Tuesdays. But outside of that, Tuesday, kind of a boring ho-hum day.
Yeah. Well, that's when the club goes up, at least. It was quiet on our end. We had soccer practice, but only soccer practice. No double dip with the baseball, which was nice. First game tonight, but we'll keep an eye on the weather for baseball as the TJ coach Baltimore 3-year-old Orioles will take on the Red Sox. So I'm conflicted in this game tonight, but hopefully the weather holds off. We're able to get it in, but Tuesday was good. Soccer went well. It was fun. She had a good time. I bought some concessions at soccer for afterwards. I like to give her a little treat so she associates, like, doing things with fun things afterwards. If she does her best, she gets a little treat afterwards, and she always does. So we gave her a little treat, and I was like, oh, I'm kind of hungry. So I got me a little popcorn, got a drink for her, a drink for me, and then a little ring pop for her as her little candy for after soccer. It was like $5, Roush. I was like, that's awesome. Like, yeah, you know, again, should it even be $5? Probably not. But I was like fully expected. You get 2 drinks, popcorn, candy. I'm just so accustomed to like sporting events that I was ready to whip out like $10 to $15. And she was like, yeah, that's just $5. I'm like, oh, that's sweet. May have to come up here just for snacks.
That's one thing that's great about church picnics is the whole family got dinner, entertainment. I had a couple beers. We brought home a dessert, and it was like $50. I'm like, oh, that's I'm lucky to get out of, a night at the Mexican place, or, I can't get out for a dinner there. I get entertainment here too. The kids got ice cream. So love when you have that feeling. My question for you, TJ, are you, will there be team snacks after any of the T-ball games? Because I learned quickly that is basically what the kids like more than anything. When I was growing up, we just got you got like a Coke, like a team fountain drink after each game. Kid just got to go up to the concession stand, and everybody got a free fountain drink. Around the world was very popular. I couldn't tell you exactly what it tasted like, but it was just every single
it was gross.
Thing.
That's what it tasted like.
There.
Gross is what it tasted like.
They also, some people would call it a suicide, but I guess you would think that just the cherry cola would just be the overpowering flavor there. That was the case back in the day. They did not do that for our T-ball league since we started out of Beachmont, but instead they would do, we would just have parents alternate and rotate who would bring the snack each time. And we did a pretty good job. For year 1, there were 0 skips. I think year 2 we had maybe 2 skips. So like there was a couple nights where it was just like, oh my gosh, no snacks.
That'd be pretty devastating.
The alternative though is we always would make the kids wait till we got home to eat the snacks anyway. So that was our way of kind of kicking the can down the road. You're the coach. You're kind of leading the charge. Are you going to say, hey, parents, we should bring snacks? Or is this going to be just free-for-all, let's go support your local concession stand?
I'm not 100% sure. I thought I remembered when I was reading when they set all this stuff up that, like, there was going to be a snack train or something like that. But if I did read that, I swear I read it where it was like coaches are not involved with snacks. The rest of the parents are the ones that bring the snacks. So either I made that up in my head or it's actuality, and I did read it at one point. But either way, in my mind, I'm not responsible for snacks. Whether I lied to myself to get there or it's actually factually true, I'm not responsible for the snacks for T-ball tonight. But I also remember that. I remember sometimes you'd go over to like a cooler, a parent would bring a cooler, and you'd get like, there'd be like an ice cream or something in there, and you'd get that. But I also do remember after Little League baseball, just getting, after each game, you got like a little ticket, and the ticket was good for one drink or treat up at the concession stand, up at Buchel, which it was like 6 years ago. I was doing an appraisal over by Buchel, so I just went and walked around the Little League, and it made me so sad that it was just totally gone and gutted and just let go. There's weeds growing everywhere. Disrepair for sure.
That's sad. Yeah.
It did make me sad, just all the great memories that were there. But supposedly, I think they're building the new Seneca High School, or they're doing something with Seneca High School on that. So at least it's going to go to some good use, I guess, in time.
Yeah, so that was right over there on like Hikes Lane, like St. Martha, all that stuff. Pius.
Yes, it's right across the street from St. Pius, which I now think is Pope John Paul II.
Yeah.
Yes, right there in the heart of Buchel.
Yeah, it sucks, but I blame travel ball for all of this because everybody now has to play travel ball. You just can't play Little League. God forbid.
That's sad. The Little League fun, that was a lot of fun. I was an umpire too up at Buchel when I was like 11 or 12, and I got to do machine pitch umpiring, and I was terrible. And most of the parents were nice and showed me some grace. Some were not very nice. So like a little 11 or 12-year-old that was trying to ump a game. That was not as enjoyable. But Yeah, good times. We'll get going with the 3-year-olds tonight. They did release an email just saying, like, hey, just as a heads up, when a player hits the ball, we're going to ask the coaches to throw out multiple balls so not all the kids are just racing and running towards one ball. They can all have kind of a ball to throw back.
Okay, so are you going to be...
What's really the point of the games then? You know, like, why don't we just do practices every week and have it fun that way?
Because at least then you have more coaches on the other team there to help you keep things moving.
I'm going to try to meet with the other team's coach beforehand and be like, hey, under the table, we're actually keeping real runs. We'll keep real outs. You want to put 20 on it? That was a good Tuesday, and this Wednesday's been nice as well. Quiet, but just excited for this evening. So nothing new over here in TJ Walker land.
I enjoy it now because I've been keeping an eye on our guy Mark with a C, and it's Mark with a C says we might be getting into the triple digits next week. We've extended spring longer than expected. Really, we're going to get spring all the way until the actual summer equinox, or summer solstice, excuse me, when it actually, we have a lunar summer is going to actually line up with the heat, because we stayed pretty cool up until this far, but it is going to be extra toasty starting this weekend with triple digits on Monday. So enjoy it while you can, Mr. Sports Talker. I did something. It actually wasn't last night. It was the other night, but I did want to bring it up because it was probably my greatest sense of athletic accomplishment since catching a Hail Mary touchdown to win a flag football championship. Because the other night I got the kids down to bed. The later summer hours, they kind of get me thrown off. So I'm like, oh, well, it's still sunlight out. It's very early. I'll go get a workout in real quick. So I packed my bag. I'm going to the gym. Did not check the summer hours for my new gym. And as I showed up, it was closing down. Is 9 o'clock too close to close the gym? Yes, of course it is. Should I have checked first? Sure, I should have. But I was a little embarrassed. I felt like a big dumb idiot, TJ. So I was like, I gotta do something, right? So I'm driving home, and I'm like, you know what? I'll just stop at Iroquois Park, and I'll like run a mile around. Like there's a short, there's a short little circle that you can do around the bottom of the hill. That's a mile. I'm not gonna run around the whole park. Like that's 3.5 miles. But I'll get a mile, maybe 2 in. So I show up to the park. I get started on my jog. Dusk is settling in. The lightning bugs are coming out to play. And I'm like, oh, this is pretty nice out. I'm getting into a nice groove. And the short circuit, it's got construction going on. I can't take my typical short circuit. So I'm like, well, I'll go up the hill, so it'll be a little bit harder, and I'll go a mile and a half. But I don't think my body's ready to handle the full 3.5 miles up and down these hills around this park. Well, I get going up the hill. I come flying down it by the golf course, and I'm hauling some butt going down there, and man, I'm feeling pretty good. Get to the golf course, and I say, you know what? Screw it. Let's go all the way around. And by God, TJ, I did it. I made it all the way around.
Wow.
I ran the entire Iroquois Park loop, which is good 3.5 miles, a lot of hills. There was a pain in the you-know-what at the very end. But it felt good. Felt good. I was
That's good. It's a good feeling.
Yeah. It was a nice sense of accomplishment because
the workout high is real.
I've done my bike on it. I know I've gone on walks, like when we would have dogs and stuff like that, and the baby in the stroller. But I just, got in the rhythm, and I let it rip. So it felt good to be like, you know what, Roush, you're not totally washed. And you know what? You should push yourself more often, because that's a good feeling, a good sense of accomplishment.
You're not totally washed, just mostly washed. Nobody can take that away from you.
Kind of like my kids' clothes, just covered in stains.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Speaking of covered in stains, have you kept an eye on what's going on at local grocery stores around these parts?
I have, because...
Now we have 2.
Wait, there's another one?
There's not just one very popular grocery store chain happens to sponsor a large stadium in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, one that we're near and dear to our hearts, as a matter of fact. Won't say which one, but they had a rodent infestation. We need to say who it is. Well, it's going to probably be impossible not to, but you know they're good folk. Like I don't want to give them a bad name just because two of their stores have rodents running wildly throughout, pooping everywhere.
But we're here. This radio show, Kentucky Roll Call, is for the people, and we need to keep our people informed. And they should probably know that.
You can go ahead and say it's Kroger. I don't care.
The Goss Avenue Kroger had rodents running wild.
But the Kroger delivery to your house service, where that delivery guy had to go poop and it was on camera and it was really gross. That Kroger delivery guy, we'll just leave that unspecified what company that was. The Kroger delivery drop off for the groceries. We won't specify that was Kroger.
So Goss Avenue, though, back open. What I did not hear about a second infestation.
Well, first, can we talk about the Goss Avenue infestation?
I don't know the details what
do you think about infestations just to begin with? I've had to mark them on appraisals before. Always fun to get to check that box. Very rare.
I notice large rat traps outside of Kroger's, and like
you have.
Yeah. The one I call it Crogetto on 3rd Street. It's really convenient.
I used to go to that one frequently back when my buddy lived there.
It's quick in and out. There's no lines. Of course you got to take precautions. So of course they have rat traps and poison and stuff on the outside. And TJ, I am much less offended and taken aback by some others because, I mean, isn't that just like expected to happen time or two? Like you have all of this food there, you're in the middle of a city. Like, I don't want to say there's nothing you can do about it, but I feel like at some point the rodents are going to find a way in. It's just how quickly can you get them out? And here's my other question: you checked the infestation box? What counts as a rodent infestation? Like, because I think the details of the Goss Avenue one were they noticed that some boxes, like there were holes chewed in them, and that the animals had gotten into the product. But what's the difference between like you catch a mouse with a trap versus like a full blown infestation?
I think an infestation is. So I think the difference would be, hey, we have a mouse. There's the mouse. Get the mouse. Mouse is gone. Problem solved. I think what was happening at Goss Avenue was get the mouse, got the mouse is gone, something's still getting into this cereal box. Got that one, that one's out. Okay, we fixed the problem. Oh no, something's else getting into these cereal boxes. So I think that's what an infestation is where you can't count how many there are. You just don't know. And thus an infestation. Could be a bajillion, could be 7 little rats. Call them maybe 5 little rats. Call them Coach K's starting 5. But so Goss Avenue, here's the interesting thing about Goss Avenue with their infestation. They supposedly, my buddy, this is his home Kroger. Everybody's got a home grocery store. This one was his. They blocked off 2 aisles. Is that not the dumbest thing you've ever heard?
Well, here. We're going to have, look, the rats can't get through if we have them where the humans can't get through.
They found rodent droppings on some shelves in 2 aisles, but they never found any other droppings in any of the other aisles. So they initially just shut down 2 aisles, said, don't go to these aisles, there's mice, rodents. Which, what are we doing? I get it. I imagine the thing was probably, hey, we have mice in here. We're going to have to shut down the store. And then they started looking at the dollars and how much that was going to cost, Roush, and they were probably just like, no. I mean, we're not doing that. Let's try to contain it, control it, as if these mice were just in between aisles 6 and 7 because they love cereal and they like the little Pop-Tarts in the aisle over. Like, no, it doesn't work that way.
These are the mice owls. We've given them these 2 areas. They're going to stay over here, separate but equal.
It's a 2-state solution. Mice doing their aisle, it's none of our business, all right? They can do what they want on their aisle. The mice expanding their territory into Ukraine.
Oh no, they've annexed the tortilla strip.
Does Ted Cruz even know the population of the mice in the Goss Avenue aisle? It's a hilarious topical reference, which, by the way, we're going to play that audio here in a second, Roush, just because I'm curious your opinion on it. But they initially just blocked off 2 aisles, which is idiotic. They eventually shut down the entire store, and I don't know if they're since opened.
Yeah, they recently reopened. I think it was closed for 48 hours, possibly.
Oh, that sounds right, yeah.
But it's one of those things where I'm generally trusting. I believe in the good in people, TJ.
Same. Because if you don't, I know where you're going with this, and just to add, I think you have to as a person, because if you don't, you can't live. You just can't theoretically live a carefree life. I don't worry about people at restaurants doing stuff to my food, although certainly at some point in 34 years, Roush, right, that has had to happen. Some person just having a bad day, spits in a drink or something like that. But you can't go your entire life worrying about, what's getting into your food. Is there mice at the store I'm getting my groceries at?
Exactly. But the tactics they used prior to shutting the grocery store down do make me question if they... did you actually take care of the infestation?
Yeah, it's a totally fair question. Totally fair question. They're back open and running, but a second Kroger, this one on LaGrange Road, seeing mice in 4 aisles, and mice were chewing on open food in the store. Imagine just seeing that, being it was the health inspector that saw that too.
Oh no.
Okay, no, she came the next day. All right, I misread.
Oh, okay.
Send that to your health inspector, and you've got your little sheet, and you're making the markings, and you're like, all right, well, those 4 mice eating right there, we're going to have to note that. That's going to make the report.
It's going to feel like the golden goose when you show up and you actually...
You see them?
Yeah.
Some Kroger employee's like, oh my gosh, they must have just gotten here. That's crazy.
Well, man, being a health inspector, because you would think that, 90% of the time your job is just boring, average, ho-hum. But that other 10% of the time, absolutely disgusting. Just unfathomable foulness that you just can't believe. Because I know that some of those, whenever they give out the B's or C's or whatever, a lot of times they get written up for silly things. The most noteworthy thing I can think of is, if an employee has a drink cup and you just sit it in the wrong area. You can get marked up for stuff like that. But I would think, for the most part, you aren't going to just walk into a rodent infestation.
On the YouTube stream, Mary says that her husband went to the LaGrange Kroger yesterday.
Oh, no. I hope... Oh, man, the produce, that would have me freaking out.
See, that's it. Then all right. I don't want to pull back the curtain a little too much, but is it? Roush and I already said we don't go about our lives worrying about what could be contaminated, who's dealing with our food. You just have to have a sense of social trust, I think, is what Roush said. And if not, then allow me to coin that.
So yeah.
There's a trust in just humans that some things are probably not going to be perfect. But people aren't, there's not a malicious intent to ruin people's food. That being said, the stuff that we eat, the stuff that we put in our bodies, how long it can sit before, what's the food thing? I think I saw one where some lady got some bread out and she used it as a towel to pick up a wet stain on her table. She had a spill and she used bread to wipe it up. And then she wringed out the bread like it was a towel. And then the bread was still just pretty normal.
Yeah.
Just to go to show, what we're putting in food to make sure it stays good for a long time and that it tastes good. The stuff we put in our bodies is really, really bad. If a mouse happened to walk on the cereal that we eat...
Is it actually doing anything?
Not what I want. Not ideal, but is it really any worse than the processed, gross, cancerous foods we put in our body on a daily? Probably not. And that's something I try to remind myself. When we got home, actually, from soccer yesterday, we took the dog on the walk, and my daughter, she, tripped with a ring pop, and just, 3 pieces of grass got on it. And she was trying to get them off, and she couldn't get them off. and she wanted me to go to leave the walk, to go inside, rinse off the ring pop, and then continue the walk. And I said, you're going to pluck that thing right back in. Like, it's just grass. It's okay. You'll be all right. And that's a very small comparison to, but like, folks, the stuff that we're eating, whether mice happen to be at the store where we got it or not, I've got some news for folks. It ain't great.
Well, that's why, you should try shopping organic. Farmers markets, the people that are selling stuff there, they grew it. Like if you have a chance to get a quarter of a cow or something, like you know that you're eating less processed junk. That's going to be good for you. But even my mother, who
used to say mice did run on those, but no, you're totally right.
Yeah, they went on a vacation, and it was I guess wherever she shopped, she got a red just a plain red delicious apple, and I don't think it was organic. And boy, it slipped through the cracks. And like 2 months later, she's like, "Huh, this apple still." I mean, it looked like the apple that Snow White bit out of to go into a coma. And this thing had been like she had it in her possession for months, and it still looked pristine. A little worrisome. Just a little worrisome.
No, it is. I hear you on that. Roush, the stuff going on internationally a little worrisome. Did you keep up with that? Were you monitoring the situation last night?
Yeah, and I was, but I wasn't. Like I enjoy. Like I'm glad that we are in a time and place where like I can just like make jokes about it on Twitter, instead of having to like actually worry. Spend a lot of time like in my worrying about getting anxiety over, are we going to war?
Is there a nuclear war on the horizon?
Right, like because it's out of my control. I can only control what I can control. So, like, I enjoyed making jokes about all of Iran's missiles that were fired at Israel missing. I enjoyed that. I think you're about to refer to a clip that I haven't seen yet.
I want to get your opinion on this clip that is between Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz. And if you're not in the news, there are a bunch of conservatives or people on the right that are opposed to any foreign wars. They don't want America meddling in the Middle East, in Ukraine, nothing. However, I'd say the conservative side of things, Roush, is relatively split. There's a strong support for Israel on the conservative side, and there is on the liberal side and the progressive side as well. Maybe stronger on the right than it is on the left, but it's pretty bipartisan support Israel for the most part. But in both fractions, on the right and the left, there's a portion of people on the left that, no, do not support Israel. They're the bad guys. And there's people on the right that say, no, don't support Israel. We're not saying they're the bad guys necessarily. We just don't want to support anybody right now. We only want to support ourselves. So it's a really tricky situation for President Trump. And secondly, it shouldn't really be all that tricky. You don't get to make that decision, President. It's got to go to Congress. Now, he would be the first president since who knows when that would go to Congress and ask, hey, can we bomb these people? Can we do some military actions?
Bush in 2003.
Did he even go to Congress before they started doing that? Because I think it was like a wartime thing that like, hey, we were attacked. I don't have to go to Congress after we're attacked.
They did that with Afghanistan, but that was the weapons of mass destruction, where they gave them basically bad info to Congress so that they could get the approval to go to Iraq.
Sounds familiar. 22 years later. Iran, they've got weapons of mass destruction. We've got to do something about it. It's like, we've heard that before. We've heard that before about Iran even. And here we are. And the beat goes on. Anyways, regardless of how you feel or where you stand on the issue, and it is a very complicated issue, and I just pray for peace, I think is the smart thing to do. People are debating it, and especially, like I said, among the right, because there is a big portion that says, we didn't vote for Trump to go get us in another Middle East war or more military action or spending our taxpayer dollars so we can drop bombs in Iran. And there's a portion, though, that says we need to do these things. They're our ally. We need to help, and that's what we're supposed to do. Ted Cruz is on the latter, and Tucker Carlson is on the former here. So they're talking about it, and Ted Cruz gets taken to task.
How many people live in Iran, by the way? I don't know the population. At all? No, I don't know the population. You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple? How many people live in Iran? 92 million. Okay. Yeah, how could you not know that? I don't sit around memorizing population tables. Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government. Why is it relevant whether it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant? Because if you don't know anything about the country... I didn't say I don't know anything about the country. What's the ethnic mix of Iran? They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay, it's not even... You don't know anything about Iran. So, okay, I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran. You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government. You're the one who claims about the country. No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the one who can't figure out if it's a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad. They're trying to murder Trump. Yes, I do. Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. Okay, we're carrying out military strikes today. You said Israel was. Right, with our help. I've said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them. Well, you're breaking news here because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity. No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them. You just said we were. We are supporting Israel. High stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening. Okay.
All right, Roush. It goes on longer. That's it, right. Though.
So I've seen the whole clip.
I've seen both sides of the argument on this, on who's right, who's wrong.
It is just a 90-second clip, so like I'm not getting the full entire context within the interview. But first things first, it's the worst guy you know just made a great point. It's like the worst guys you know just made a great point. Because I loathe both of these dudes so very much.
You really should loathe Tucker Carlson. I'm not sure why you would.
I just think he's a goober. But I think that, like, one, Ted Cruz, like, having to memorize, like, I'm kind of with him. Like, knowing the exact population demographics of Iran, that would not be on the tip of my tongue. It just wouldn't right now, and I think it's completely understandable for him to not know the exact population number, and then the breakdown of the...
ethnic diversity and
like Shia
people. Yes,
exactly. Yeah, like that's like something that you probably see, but that doesn't stick in your head. We play trivia with Corey Price. Like, I'm terrible at that population stuff. You can be a good politician without having to memorize those things. But, dude, give Tucker Carlson so much credit. He brought in the gotcha girls in the back door and said, Ted Cruz, you don't think I'm going to get you? Well, let me call you out for not knowing the population of Iran, and then I'm going to cause you to slip up and then say the quiet part out loud, which is that we are in this together, which is, that is a very, like, this is something the United States government's been doing for 75 years, where it's like, we are not involved whatsoever at all, but it's like, yeah, you totally are, because you're giving them all the weapons and you're telling them what to do.
And then, then eventually it has led into like, okay, actually, yes, we are fully intertwined in this conflict, whether it be Vietnam or in the Middle East, multiple times, obviously. But you're right. That's the play. That's the playbook. Hey, we're not in it. We're not going to do anything. Okay, we'll help out a little bit. All right, we'll start to give money. We'll do a little of this, but no boots at all. And then we all know where it leads.
There's a if you want like a dramatized, fun version that's a lot less like sad than like Iran-Contra situation. Charlie Wilson's War is a Tom Hanks movie where basically he just fought the Soviets. He was considered a hero because it was just fighting the Soviet Union, and Afghanistan beat the Soviet Union. So it's like, oh yeah, it worked. But like in most instances where you would do the kind of quiet under the table funding of these wars, it just ended horribly, where you're overthrowing governments. So, typically not pro-overthrowing governments. And, I mean, like, what Cruz just did there was, like it was very clumsy. And honestly, it's shocking, TJ, because, dude, nobody is more traditionally classic slimeball politician than Ted Cruz. Right, like that's where he's at his best. Is keeping his guard up, and man, Tucker got him so flustered that it came down, and He let it slip.
Now, in the public space like that, and Ted Cruz is a genius at this, he knows it. When you're asked a tough question that you don't know the answer to, or you feel like you're getting embarrassed or you're getting taken to task, then you go on the aggressive. You go on the offensive. And Tucker just handled it. He just kind of was like slapping Ted around. When Ted came back on the aggressive, he just said, no, I'm ready for what you're coming back with. Those are two guys that are really, really good at talking, and both were going at it, and it was fun to see. I'll give my takes on it, just on who was in the right or who was more wrong, or who maybe both were in the wrong when we come back from the break. But we are long overdue. I kind of wanted to end this and get to something else, but we're going to have to bleed it over a little bit longer. But then we're going to get to your text on the Game Day Men's Health text line, 502-414-1450. Keep the text coming into the show. If you're watching on the live stream, we're appreciative, and we'll read some of your comments there as well. Game Day Men's Health is redefining men's wellness. No shortcuts, just results. Testosterone, peptides, weight loss, sexual performance therapy. Visit GameDayMen'sHealth.com, defining a new era in men's health. This is Kentucky Roll Call, and we'll be back after this. Oh, the music.
Oh, no.
That's awkward. And then it's really loud because you're loud, Roush, so that was mishandled for sure. We'll do a better job next time after these commercial breaks.
Sunrise with Scoops.
And the headline is, cops looking to arrest ex-NFL wide receiver Brown. I'm like, well, what did he do now? Attempted murder with a firearm. I don't understand the brain of Antonio Brown. I feel like that's one of those things that needs to be studied, and even if we go into a deep dive studying Antonio Brown's brain,
rest of the week. Actually, I think this is Roush's last day. He gets to have a long weekend getaway.
Yeah.
Which is exciting. Well earned, well deserved. We're going to have the We're Up to No Good crew in here on Friday.
Should have plenty to discuss.
Wildcats Tongue. Scooter Dingus going to produce for them on Friday. That's going to be awesome. They will have plenty to discuss. We've got a lot to discuss as well on today's show. And tomorrow, we'll see. We'll see. Scoots has volunteered to do radio with me for an hour, which I'm actually very excited about. Like, I'd love to just talk sports with Scoots for an hour. Sounds good to me. But I was going to have it was going to be Producer Thursday. And I was going to get my post-game show producer, Zach Cantrell, who I'm a huge fan of. I think he is incredibly talented, does a great job in radio. I was going to have him come on for hour number 2. So it's going to be a little producer for hour 1, producer for hour 2. He was going to come in studio, Roush. It's going to be a lot of fun. He agreed to it. ESPN 680 came back and said, no, conflict of interest.
Wait, hold up. You can do their post-game show, but they can't come on your show?
Yes. I do their post-game show. I did, probably 40 of them last year. Maybe 50 of them. And a producer who works for them. Not even an on-air talent, but a producer who works for them, who just takes shifts because he needs the money. Can't come do an hour of radio with me for conflict of interest, even though he's not scheduled to work during that time.
What a bunch of lame asses. My God.
Like, that's the stuff in this industry that is just absolutely wild. It's a business, though. It's a business. Are you trying to promote your employees, help them out, let them grow? Or are you just, the Louisville market?
And
somebody may listen to Roll Call instead of Bobby V.
That really wasn't, honestly, that wasn't even a thing until, like, the last year or two, when iHeart started getting real, like, that became a very strict policy, which Maggie was filling in for Leach last week and had somebody drop out on her. She was like, Roush, can you come in, just do 5 minutes with me really quick? I'm like, yeah, sure. I think that was my first appearance on an iHeart station in 2 years, and I hope it made somebody very mad over there, because it is the dumbest thing.
You had Roush on? Are you kidding me? It's so silly. I think it's silly in media too, and websites and stuff, like not promoting other people's work. I think, and I get it. I know how the business works. I've been in the business. I always think it's really silly when somebody quote tweets somebody and they're like, news regarding UK. It's like, hey, well, you could have just retweeted it. I'm not an idiot. I'm smart enough to get on my social media app, log in, put my pants on, figure things out. I can also read this tweet and realize it's regarding UK athletics. But had you not quote tweeted it and let me know that this news that says Wildcats basketball coach Mark Pope is related to UK athletics, oh, okay, well, thanks so much. So I get annoyed with all that stuff, but especially with the radio. So I don't know what we'll do tomorrow. It is Juneteenth. We may just take the day off in honor of the holiday. We've always been big observers of that holiday, Roush. You know that. So we may do that. But definitely we're up to no good on Friday, which I'm excited about. It's going to be, I'll be tuned in, probably texting into the show, may even just do the radio show. Who knows? I won't. It's going to be their microphone, but I'm very excited for them. And then just putting a bow on the little spat between Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz. I get Tucker Carlson's point. You're trying to topple a regime that is threatening the world with nuclear missiles. And you're trying to, like, it's not easy. It's not like you can just snap your fingers and be like, all right, instead of you running this country, this ginormous country, we're going to have these people run the country. It's not that easy. Like, you're talking about innocent lives being killed, ideally very few, but it's just going to happen because it's war. You should know everything about that place that you're going or wanting to invade and attack and overthrow a regime. You need to know everything about it. Now, like, again, what's the ethnic makeup? Does Ted Cruz need to know that? But it reminds me of, Roush, of like when you do a project in high school or college or whatnot, and do you remember like science fairs, you'd have the big, what were they called? The tri posters?
Yeah, like a tri, yeah.
Whatever they were. But you'd have your setup and whatnot. And then during the science fair, the people would come around and they'd start asking you questions. And I just want to be like, hey, read the sheet, you dingbat. Like, I already did all this work. It's all right here. But those teachers and those judges, they just want to know more about the process. What went into it? Did you have fun doing it? You know, I'm asking questions that are off this board. You should probably know it because, right, you made the board. You should know everything about. One time for a science fair, I did how long do chicken wings take to become rubbery if you put them in like a vinegar or something like that. So it was kind of fun. We just got to get chicken wings for dinner one night, and I was like, hey, Mom, don't throw away the bones. I'm going to need those. And so I like kept the bones, and I put them in vinegar for like a week, and it smelled terrible. And then it's the day of the science fair, Roush. I whip out one of those bones that just smells terrible. It's not rubbery at all. I look like a huge idiot. Like the video that I saw, I was led to believe that if you soak these chicken wings in vinegar for like a week, they would bounce like a bouncy ball on the floor. I go and I drop my little chicken wing. It doesn't people laughed at me. It just did what a chicken wing does and just fell and just stayed on the ground. And it wasn't good and it wasn't fun. But the point is, if you're doing a project on a subject, you don't have to be a master about everything, but you should kind of know the basic details. And I would imagine the basic details of toppling a regime, and it's not like Ted Cruz is just, hey, I know I'm in Congress, I need to have an opinion about this. I see the war hawk side of things. You don't want Iran to get nuclear missiles. They keep pestering Israel. I see that side of things. But if he was just kind of like, about it, that'd be one thing to not know the population of Iran. He is pushing it, him and Lindsey Graham, big time. So if you're pushing it and you want all this destruction in Iran, you best know about them, right? Like, you best show that you've done your homework on them, that, hey, we've taken time. And I think that was Tucker's point, is you know very little about this place that you want to cause destruction to. Maybe you don't know as much as you think you do. And I think that is fair, even though you don't have to list off all these little mundane facts about a place. I think the bigger picture was, how much do you even know about this place that you're trying to cause decade-long chaos, potentially? So that was my last take on the Tucker Carlson, Ted Cruz. You don't have to know all those little info, but when you just kind of, when you look like you don't know bleep, and then you get defensive about it, I don't think it was the best video for Ted Cruz.
What was your take on Matt Ponatoski?
I'm a big fan of Matt Ponatoski. He had a great showing yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Is he
checking football news because there was, it felt like a perfect time for a hard stop because Cats got another commitment. Max Mooring committed last night, and that happened on a day where seemingly the stars started aligning for Kentucky to land a star quarterback. Matt Ponatoski, we told you he visited the other day before making his trip out to the Elite 11. Alabama took a commitment from a quarterback. They were considered a top option for him. And Oregon got a kid from Oregon State. He is not officially flipped yet, but they will both be officially visiting Oregon at the same time. So it seems like
that kid and Matt Ponakowski?
Yeah, I think his last name is actually like Bevan or something like that. Or I think his last name is actually Beaver, which makes you wonder why he's not going to Oregon State. Which maybe we could talk about later, Oregon State.
A lot of Beaver talk today.
A lot of Beaver talk. But the stars are aligning. Things are looking good for Ponatoski. And then he went out at the Elite 11. And there was a lot of questions. Like, the reason why Elite 11 is such a big deal, TJ, is you only get 2 or 3. I mean, you only get a handful of opportunities from a recruiting evaluation standpoint to see these kids on the field at the same time. It's different in basketball. You know, like Jack was just having a Team USA event. They've got the NBPA camp. They've got the EYBL circuit. Like, they play against each other quite a bit, so you can speak comparatively about their games. You can directly match them up. In football, they've got the Elite 11. They've got the Rivals 5-Star Challenge. They've got the All-American games at the end of the year. But that's really it. You're just kind of comparing film, and that can be such a challenge with all these different levels of football in different states all across the country. So the Elite 11 is huge because these are all guys who qualified from regional events to make it to the finals. And these evaluators, they knew that Ponatoski had a big senior year, but like, this guy hasn't been playing football. He hasn't been doing the camp circuits. He's been playing baseball. Is he going to be rusty? The answer was no. Not only was he not rusty, they said he was accurate, he was consistent, he made it look easy. And that included some deep ball accuracy out there. On 3, had him as the number 4 top performer on the day of day 1 of the camp. I believe it's a 3-day event. So Ponatoski, he might be the real deal Holyfield, and Kentucky is in great position to land one of the top uncommitted quarterbacks in the country.
That would be good. We talked a little bit about it yesterday. It does seem like UK is maybe benefiting from some people being a little scared about his baseball future, but you can figure that stuff out. And I like what you said yesterday, Roush, that, all right, you want to be a star quarterback or you want to be a baseball player? Star quarterback's cooler.
Way cooler.
Not sure that's probably going to play a huge role in his decision, what he thinks is a cooler position perception-wise nationally. But that would be nice. Everybody knows where we're at with UK football right now. At the end of the day, just go win games when you have that opportunity in the fall, and that can change the tune. Until then, you're not going to get a lot of people on board just because recruiting wins for people that may not be playing in the program for years to come. So yes. Keep taking care of business. Do your job. You're getting paid way too much money to be able to do your job, and that stuff. This is the stuff you should be doing. And
it's similar to the other recruiting news. I mentioned Kentucky got a commitment from Max Mooring, which okay. Well, Vince Merrill leaves. We thought recruiting was done. They get 5 commitments in 8 days. That's good. And then you look at Max Mooring and you see that he's not ranked by 2 of the 4 recruiting sites, and his only other power conference offer was UCF. This guy, for me, TJ,
diamond in the rough. We're getting on him early. We know talent.
It goes back to the conversation we had with Andy Staples, where it's like if you trust your evaluation and you're good at it, then this is a big win, right? Because they were watching film on one of his teammates. They're recruiting one of his teammates who looks like he's going to end up at Penn State. But they liked what they saw enough. So if you can do your job correctly from an evaluation standpoint, then this can be a great get. Dual sport athlete, good athleticism. He had a bunch of Ivy League offers, so he's smart between the ears. So, it right now could be everybody's pointing and laughing, like, oh, it's just a 0-star, you don't know it, like that. But it really could be a 2-3 years from now, we're like, man, that was a great find.
Yeah, that stuff happens in college football all the time. It's just people. I think the majority of UK fans just don't care. Just don't care about a recruit, whether he's highly ranked, not ranked. They're just kind of bracing themselves for what they think's coming this football season, and we very much hope to be wrong.
And that's exactly what a texter says on the Game Day Men's Health text line, 502-414-1450. That it's hard to get excited for a high school quarterback commit because, what's the hit record of them under Stoops?
0.
Kentucky hasn't had...
Is there one under Stoops?
Patrick Scholes.
That they recruited. Well, he still transferred out, though. I get it. He did come in. He developed. Eventually was handed the keys as a starter. But is there one that worked out? Is there one that worked out?
No, they haven't started a high school quarterback recruit. Cutter Boley snapped that streak in the Louisville game. He was the first high school recruit to start a game at quarterback since Drew Barker against Florida. Which
17, 16?
Yeah, and they got smoked, and he got pulled halfway through because he hurt his back. 2014. No, sorry.
It was 16.
Yeah, 16, yeah. So it had been 8 football seasons since they had started a kid who they recruited out of the high school ranks. Yeah, it's totally understandable. But I do think it is a sign of a healthy program or not, because you have to do the bare necessities, right? And that's one of the bare necessities. And we don't know a lot about Bush Hamden. If he was able to get a top 100 player like that, okay, maybe it has been wise to hold reservations on Bush Hamden like that, because that would be a good sign, right? That's what he would tell you. At least the guy can recruit, and then if he can recruit talented high school players, maybe he did get the right guys to fit his system for this upcoming year. Yeah, is it a stretch? Of course, TJ. But I'm just...
Hey, it's a different opinion. You're not hearing that a lot of other places, so at least makes people think.
Yeah, because it's easy to just say everything sucks, UK football's the worst. That's the easy way to go about it. We're not going to do that. We're not lame losers like a lot of people who cover that other school. And maybe we can get to some of that in hour number 2, along with pique my interest. But
you were big internet night for you last night. I will say, and you're partially maybe responsible for Louisville coming back and winning. Why can't you just be patient? Wait till the game's over. I had a hilarious Beaver joke ready to go. I was excited about it. Oh, UVO came back and won. So we just have to put the Beaver joke away.
But Louisville fans would still say they're melting down, though, because they had a meltdown.
Well, they were. It's not.
Yeah, like that's exactly. I was just stating a fact.
But you knew how that would go if they ended up winning, and it's exactly how they went. And you had little Ty Spalding in your mentions left and right.
Yeah, long story short, like I never respond to him in blank because they're not good enough at the internet to be worth my time. Like it's like taking candy from a baby. So I normally don't respond. My response is don't suck so much, and actually I'll enjoy engaging. I like a little rat-a-tat, but it's not even fun because they just don't know how to internet at all.
We'll talk about that and more. We'll get some baseball. The U of L gets back at it today at 2 in an elimination game. They're going to need to beat Coastal Carolina twice to advance to the national championship game. The same applies to Arkansas against LSU in the bottom of that bracket. We'll get to maybe that in hour number 2. But as soon as we return, we're going to pique your interest with Steven Peake, talk about what-ifs in UK athletics, which will be a lot of fun. And then we got to talk about some of this money moves going on in college athletics. There's some breaking news out of Florida that is of note. Kentucky Roll Call, hour number 2, coming up next.
This is Kentuckiana's only locally owned sports talk. The Big X, AM 1450 and 96.1 FM, WXVW Jeffersonville. Roll call
Nothing is over until we decide it is.
with Walker and Roush.
We're just getting started, bro.
Welcome back. Hour number 2, Kentucky Roll Call here on Big X Sports Radio. In this hour, we're going to hit up Game Day Men's Health, the redefining men's wellness, no shortcuts. Just results. They're not going to have you waiting around in a lobby or weeks waiting for results. They're going to get you the results in 10 or 15 minutes. Testosterone, peptides, weight loss, sexual performance therapy. What's going on with your body? They'll figure it out at Game Day Men's Health. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com. They are defining a new era in men's health. GameDayMen'sHealth.com and the Game Day Men's Health text line 502-414-1450. Joining us this hour for Piqued My Interest is one Steven Peake. Steven Peake, what's up, buddy? How are you?
How we doing? Can you guys hear me?
We do hear you. You sound good. We've got the stream going. I've got a picture of Roush and a picture of you on the stream. Unfortunately, since we're not in studio like we are normally on Wednesdays, but it's a good picture of you, Peake. Roush it's him in the cowboy hat, which is a good picture as well. But it's fun. It looks like I'm talking to you all on the stream, even though you all haven't moved just yet. Glad you're doing well, Peake. Happy Wednesday to you.
Doing good, man. I'm actually in Mackinac Island in Michigan.
I've always wanted to go there.
It's pretty cool. No chain restaurants. There's actually one Starbucks. Somehow Starbucks got in, but there's no cars. Everything's by horseback, and it's a pretty neat experience. We're doing this remotely today. How did Nick and I both end up doing this remotely?
3 different states for Kentucky Roll Call. Impressive. Are you racing the horses to places? Are you riding them? Or would you consider yourself a horseman?
Oh, absolutely not. No, I'm in a carriage. You're in a carriage most of the time. But it's crazy because even when they drop off like supplies for the restaurants and groceries, it's all by horseback. It's all carriages, and they keep the streets clean. I don't know how. There must just be a constant wave of people cleaning up the streets because there's horse leavings everywhere.
Right, if you wanted to go to the furthest part of the island to the furthest part of the island, would you just go out to the road and like snap your fingers and a horse carriage would come get you? Do you have to set it up? Is it like Uber with horses where you can get on an app?
It's not an app, but there's taxi service and it's 3 horses. I do wonder if there would be like a DoorDash or an Uber here if it was just like they have to have a horse. I can drop it off for you.
Can you just go jump on one and ride one, or can you get your own horse?
No. That's no one's riding, but they do have the like they're playing the bugle or whatever. It sounds like we're at the Derby, and then I see Roush is wearing a Kentucky Derby hat right now. Yeah.
I'm no big deal. I would like it if you could just kind of, it was like Westworld. Like you got to the island, here's your horse. Take care of it, because if you need to go somewhere, there's your horse.
Man, I love that. I probably wouldn't do so well, but I love it for everyone else who is into that.
So what do you do? What do you, like, if you want to go to the beach one day? Like, what do you just do in the island to begin with? Because I do want to go there. I've heard a lot about it, but I've never really looked up what people do.
There's all kinds of shops. There's lots of activities. What we're going to do after the show, actually, we're going to go on a little 8.2-mile bike ride around the island, go around the whole thing. It's 8.2 miles all the way around.
That sounds awesome.
That does sound awesome.
It's going to be fun.
I bet it's probably like 60, 70 degrees up there.
It's real chilly. So I didn't actually look at any forecasts before coming here, so I didn't pack anything that would have. I was like, it's summertime. I'm actually near Canada. I should have thought about that. But on the way here, though, it's funny. Nick Roush was saying we're talking about this week, and he kind of said I have some ideas, and that's exactly what I was talking about to several. A lot of blue got in. There's so many Kentucky fans on this island. You would think Kentucky has like an exhibition game coming. They're just Kentucky jerseys, shirts, hats all around the island. Awesome. Big Nation is everywhere. But we were actually talking with some people about some alternative histories to Kentucky basketball and football, and what if one play maybe goes different in any of these years, any of these games, we could be on a totally different timeline. And the one that I did a video about on KSL YouTube, you can check it out. It's on Will Levis getting hurt in the Ole Miss game. And I felt like since that Ole Miss game in 2022, things have just everything was on its way up, and it turned that day. And Will Levis got hurt. Of course, they lose the South Carolina game. They lose the Ole Miss game. They lost to Vanderbilt. You look at that schedule. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that could have been easily a 10-win season. It should have been a 10-win season. You should have been playing Georgia for a chance to go to Atlanta. That game was close with the Will Levis playing and with all kinds of injuries. So I feel like Mark Stoops would have left. I think he would have been gone after that year.
And I don't know how much we've had this conversation on air versus off air, but that's why this segment's great, Peak, because it brings a lot of our car riding conversations to light. Because Roy has said this often, and I agree with him. A lot was teed up for that year to be the jumping off point, because you had the 2 10-win seasons in 4 years. If you did a 3rd and 5, like that was the opportunity. The way the roster was set up, you had a starting quarterback returning after a good year for only the second time in a decade. You had the schedule to do it, and I agree with you wholeheartedly that it is, like, if you're talking about the biggest swinging doors moment because of just what could have been. I mean, that's a year they lost to Vandy at home, inexplicably. They lost to South Carolina with the backup quarterback. And honestly, if they didn't start the game with a stupid trick play that resulted in a turnover, they still played well. Like, that, Kai Sharon wasn't that bad in that game. It was close. Like, they should have won that football game, too. So, my just bigger question, and this one's for TJ. What do you think, like, is it Will Levis getting the safety sack, or is it just the penalty with Barion Brown not getting set? Because part of me thinks that even if they like they could have found a way to overcome that loss the following week, or overcome not having Levis, if that dude's really just on not lined up offsides, doesn't get that penalty, doesn't get that call overturned.
Well, first and foremost,
wrote a song about it, like to hear it? Here it go. Free your mind.
Okay, now we can begin. Well, you all know what it was. You didn't hear it, but you know what it was. And it's playing on in the background right now.
You blew it.
It's not that you blew it, no. It's Free Your Mind.
Oh. Yeah.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, how to forget about that?
Because we can't hear the funny sounds.
The only issue is, though, I have to have you all up really, really loud, and I've got this volume down as low as it will go on YouTube, and it may just still be too loud.
Yeah, just we don't need the music this week.
Okay, easy for you to say. It's a huge part of the production. It's an absolutely huge part of the production. Background music makes a segment go by faster for listeners. That's a proven fact. All right,
we're just trying to blow through the Steven Peake segment.
Whatever in your scenario, Roush. But no, I'm not trying to blow. You want listeners to not be like, "That was a long segment." Whichever one keeps Will Levis healthier. Because did he punch something? Did he have a? Wasn't there rumors that after that Ole Miss game he got further injured in that game because they ran as much as they did?
Well, it's because he got rolled up on in that game, and then they quit running him. Yeah, so, the strip side. Bring on the blitz.
I do think the season has changed at that point when Will Levis is kind of banged up. The rest of the year was sort of not an asterisk next to it, but if whatever scenario keeps Will Levis healthy, and then you win that Ole Miss game, I agree with you all. The rest of that season is probably very good. You don't win at Tennessee. You don't probably beat Georgia, but Peake mentioned that game being a huge one for Kentucky. I don't think you probably even get 10 wins, but you probably get 9 right there. So it's a huge deal. Well, it's not to say you couldn't slip up somewhere else either.
Right, but I mean, you probably beat South Carolina. You definitely beat Vanderbilt, and they were a play away from beating Ole Miss, and they finished with 7 wins. So they absolutely get 10.
10 was on the table very clearly, and the injury kind of puts it up for grabs, and that's the reason why this is the best one, is because so much hinged on that game and so much turned after that. I mean, you were a top 10 team in the country. You were on the road beating another top 10 team. And you actually kind of handled them, and you should have won by more. I mean, Barion Brown got tripped up by Lavelle Wright on that. I mean, it should have been a kickoff return touchdown that they didn't capitalize on. I mean, he almost scored on that screen that nearly won the game for him on the play before the penalty there at the end. I mean, there's so many, and that's why I think it's the best one, Now, there's a lot of individual games elsewhere throughout the Stoops era, and even like broader than Kentucky football in general, like big picture elsewhere, like that just changes a whole season, a whole era for a coach, a whole tenure. But I do think there's another big one that would have, like, Kentucky might have got the ball rolling a little bit sooner, and that was the holding call on Nick Haynes at the end of the Florida game in 2017. Was it 17 or 19?
Yes, it was
19, right? Because that was when what's his name, the backup from Troy, played for. Oh man, now I can't. No, it was 17 because they had Benny Snell at the time.
Right, and yeah, because 19 was when you had the quarterback hurt, and then
and then Harden comes in. Yeah, but if you break the streak at home, like I didn't realize how much, like, it's different for me because I go to all the games, but when you're at the game, obviously that memory, that moment means so much more to you.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, 18 was definitely the coming out party for Kentucky. If they break the streak in 17, I do think there's a scenario where it fast forwards things, and it gives them another Mark Stoops signature moment at Kroger Field, because really, if you list his best wins, they're almost all away from there.
Like, I feel like we got it in 21 though, with the Florida win. Like we stormed the field. I was there.
Yeah, it was a good time, but I do think you could maybe speed up the success. Where that was another 7-5 season. You know, you get to 8 or 9, and then you're able to have another field storming moment. Like, it feels like you're closer to reaching these new heights much quicker. But you are correct. We eventually got that moment. I just to actually break the streak at home, I think just it would have meant a lot more to people. Just like I'm sure it meant a ton to break the streak when you were playing Tennessee at home.
Yeah. Well, the other ones from football for me were like, how about Austin McGinnis maybe possibly saving the Mark Stoops era twice? I mean, really the biggest one, Mississippi State.
What if he misses that?
What if he misses that, and of course you get the one from Louisville, and you know that Louisville game could have been totally different if Kentucky was 5-6 going in, looking to try to get bowl eligible. Because I mean, if Mark Stoops doesn't get bowl eligible, was that year 4 at that point?
Yeah, he's cooked. His goose is cooked.
Yeah,
that's a good one, Peake. Like, is Jeff Brom the coach of Kentucky instead of Louisville?
Oh man!
If Austin McGinnis misses that 52-yarder.
Would he have done that?
We talked about it yesterday. I believe that he would have at the time because he was at Western. He had a lot of success.
I don't know if UK would have hired him, though, from UK side of things.
No, that's correct. He would have pursued it. I think he would have been a finalist along with, like, I think Neil Brown had maybe been at West Virginia for only a year, but they definitely would have tried to call him up. You know, I don't know who else would have been on the table, but yeah.
What if in 2015 they don't connect on that fade route to Baker? Would that have had any against Eastern Kentucky? Because I thought if you lost that game and you finished 4-8 that year, there would have been a lot of people kind of, all right, like, is the Mark Stoops thing going to work out because you just lost at home to Eastern Kentucky? That would seem like such a gamble to just, let's throw that up in the corner of the end zone and see if William Baker can make a play.
It worked.
Neil Brown was still at Troy. It was in his second year at Troy, so it probably wouldn't have been Neil Brown.
It would have been Neil Brown or Jeff Brom, and Mitch would have hired Neil because he likes Neil.
I don't know if it would have been Neil. I don't know if he would have hired Neil just after one full season at Troy. I think it probably would have been somebody other than those two. Also, Neil Brown, born on my birthday. Wow. Nothing bad's ever happened on that day. Also, Neil Brown, assistant to the head coach at Texas. I don't think I knew that either.
That was the title Eddie Gran got at UK. I don't think he's going to be Texas's GM, but yeah, he's going to be an off-field staffer this year. One more I wanted to mention, and I forget the exact game or what it was, but there was very much it might have been the Tennessee game with Randall Cobb, was that Rich Brooks' final year? Or
when they went with Morgan Newton.
Yeah, they didn't give it to Cobb near the goal line.
Yeah.
Like, is there a world where if Cobb scores and they beat Tennessee, Rich Brooks says, I'm sticking around for one more year? You know, that's another sliding doors what if. But I think we're going to have a lot more fun Kentucky basketball what if moment?
Hold on, just 2 footballs. Was the McGinnis Mississippi State field goal the only win-loss time expired field goal in the Mark Stoops era? I believe so.
Yes, but you had the touchdown in the Missouri game.
Yeah, the touchdown walk-off, that's a good point. Yeah, if you don't get that, you lose. You have to get that to win. That's a good one. I had forgotten about that briefly. And the Louisville, the Lamar Jackson upset, that was a tie game, right? And there was still time left on the clock after the
Mike
field goal.
Edwards picked off Lamar's.
Another turnover from Lamar? That can't be. He wouldn't turn the ball over, would he?
Incredible.
He's made up for it in the NFL with a lot of Super Bowls, so that's good.
Hey, and you know what? He wants Jair Alexander to team up with him in Baltimore.
Do it. Take them. Have fun. Love each other forever.
Did you have a basketball one that you wanted to?
Basketball, I have several. There are plenty.
My issue is I don't know which one would have been the most impactful. The one for me that jumps out the most is just the 17 Luke May shot, because I just think that team was most built to win it. Like, I think they're winning a title, but I do think 19, if you just beat a team that you beat by 27 3 weeks before, there's a lot of narrative changes if you have another Final Four after the 2015 season. And not having that, not having the momentum. So for me, I think it's 17, because I think that team's just winning a national title. That gives Cal 2. And there's just a lot different conversation. The company of 2-time national championship winners, like Kevin Ali, he won a national title. There's a lot of guys with 1. There's not a lot of guys with 2. Cal would have gotten 2. So I think that's my biggest turning point is just Luke May misses that shot. Kentucky has all the momentum. Malik Monk gets the win in overtime, en route to a national title. But I know there are a lot more out there. And one other one I thought of, too, that
I would just say to that game, don't have an official that's cheating in it. That would be my what if. If you don't have Higgins calling that game, I think UK probably wins it. They were just robbed that entire game, and the fact that UK even took the lead at the under 4-minute timeout was just crazy to think about. And then promptly the officials were like, well, this is getting too close to comfort, and UNC went on a 6 or 7-0 run to get back up 5 with they were up 6 with under a minute to play. UNC was in that game. Again, just terrible officiating. UK ties it up with about 10 seconds left. If it had gone to overtime, I would not have been able to make it. I would have probably had a heart attack or a stroke or something in that overtime period. Just to be down 6 with under a minute to play, 54 seconds left, and tie it up. I know the Luke May ending was absolutely brutal, but if they were lost in overtime, I think somehow it could have even been more brutal, if that makes any sense at all.
Well, Fox and Monk each had 4 fouls. There were 3 Kentucky starters with 4 fouls going into overtime.
They were into halftime in foul trouble, right? There was a bunch of UK players that going into that's where the game was really impacted the most, was the way they called it in that first half.
There was a mix on YouTube, and it had a lot of Tom Leach calls, and he was really attacking Higgins.
Is it still on there?
No, I think it got taken down for reasons we probably all understand.
Well, no, I don't understand him, because John Higgins got mad that people were mean to him. If somebody made a death threat, then that person needs to be held accountable. But if an official gets some scrutiny because they debatably maybe rigged a game potentially, that just comes with the territory. And a video recapping all the terrible calls, that's nothing. I would love to see that.
Tom Leach to talk about the officiating being poorly.
By the way, him and Goose will call out bad calls when they happen, but usually it's just that.
And usually
I'm not sure I agree with that one, and they move on to the next thing.
Exactly. That's all that it usually is. But this was and it's the same guy making the call. I mean, he was adamant about who was making the bad calls.
I'd probably pay $20 to see that video. I really would probably pay $20.
I would too.
Not more than that, but probably about $20.
Which, by the way, I mentioned about Lamar wanting Jair Alexander at the Ravens. It happened. Just now.
Wow.
That's crazy. 10 minutes, Adam Schefter reported it. So I wanted to bring that up. But I also, it's kind of a similar note from one of my other ones. Elite 8, NCAA tournament. If this coach gets to a Final Four, it probably extends his time at Kentucky, and that's the game that TJ attended in 2005. Patrick Sparks got fouled blowing a damn
he got
whistle.
fouled.
He got hammered. He should have made a free throw to win the game. You don't even go into overtime. But instead, they go and they lose that game in overtime. I'm talking about the Kentucky-Michigan State triple overtime thrower in Austin, 2005. It was only 2. Okay, sorry, but that game, like that. I was a very sad boy after that game. I love that Kentucky basketball team so much, and it really never was the same for Tubby after that. If he capitalizes on a Final Four run, he can get back some more recruiting momentum. But I think that loss took way too much out of his sails because that team was awesome. And I think, too, like, not having success with those talented roster, that was problem because Rondo didn't get along with people. It's like there was a lot of headbutting. I think Randolph Morris kind of had some issues. Patrick Sparks had some issues. I think Tubby was like, I'm not dealing with guys like this anymore. And so he's getting players who were as good, who were talented enough.
I disagree with that. That was just the Tubby MO. He'd recruit really hard one cycle, and then he'd take a cycle or 2 off. And then he'd recruit really, really hard one cycle, and then he'd take a cycle or 2 off. And that 05 one was his big one. And I do agree that I think he was just kind of done after that. And just like, that's kind of all I've got. The reason I don't really harp on that game so much, despite me being there and it being such a classic game and the spark shot, the way it hung on the rim, it's just great drama for an Elite Eight game. UK was going to get crushed by UNC in the Final Four. They weren't going to beat UNC. Now, would it have been cool to have a Final Four in St. Louis with UK, U of L, Illinois, and then UNC would be the outsider in that instance? That would be awesome. That would have been really, really cool. I wish it would have happened. We would have gone to St. Louis. Would have been a great memory for little 12 or 13-year-old TJ. I guess 14.
So that was the Sean May UNC team.
That UNC team was stupid loaded. They were very good. So that's why if you got to pick one of these things to change, I probably wouldn't go 05 just because that team I don't think was good enough to beat UNC. And I think UK and UNC may have even played earlier that year.
Well, how about this one? Because I keep thinking that if Calipari just had one more Final Four, from the 2016 to 2022, he's probably still at Kentucky. I think Doug Edic's floater rolling in might have changed history more than maybe we think, because I look at that path that they would have had to the national championship game, and it was, they were going to go to the national championship game. If they'd won that game. It's crazy as that might sound, like, but you didn't even beat St. Peter's. How can you guarantee you would have beaten Murray State, Purdue, and North Carolina?
Yeah.
I just think they would have. I'm a Murray State guy. I watched that team all year. Kentucky was going to beat them by 20 points.
You'll see that in the tournament all the time, Peake, where a team gets a close call and then they go on and run. And it's hard to believe.
Kentucky Princeton in 2011. Yeah, Brandon Knight has to have the layup at the end, and that team goes to the Final Four and was one make away from probably winning the national title. The other one would be if PJ Washington only misses 10 free throws, and on 2018 versus Kansas State, they probably go to the Final Four.
My question for both of you, though, because I was thinking about that as well. Which first round Cal loss, like which one, if you take away one, which opens up the path for the best Final Four run? You're making the case for St. Peter's. I'm making the case for Oakland just because of the guards. Like, all right, they get the monkey off their back, then Reed Shepherd and Rob Dillingham can do their NCAA tournament thing. Now, I don't even remember the bracket or whatever.
DJ Burns was waiting for them.
Yeah, they were going to play NC State. NC State's incredible run would have faced Kentucky in the second round, and Rob Dillingham and Reed Shepherd, and NC State beat Oakland in overtime. Remember, NC State goes to the Final Four. It was really, truly one of the most fun runs, non-Kentucky related, of a Power 5 team that I can remember. But they were lucky to get by Oakland in that game. Otherwise, Oakland would have been in the Sweet 16. I definitely lean towards the Oscar Tshiebwe team more likely to make a big run than the Reed Shepherd, Rob Dillingham team, just because, yes, the Oscar Tshiebwe, St. Peter's lost team, they were injured, and it just seemed like they weren't meshing for whatever reason, probably because their National Player of the Year was doing death prophecies in the locker room.
Your point guard was Severe Wheeler. Like that's my big hang-up with all of it. It's like, is Severe Wheeler going to be a point guard for a Final Four team?
Well, I just think
they really had that.
they're really at their best when Severe wasn't having the ball in his hands. But Ty was kind of banged up and stuff like that. So it was a different scenario. I think that team had an easier path, though.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Kentucky, that Reed Shepherd, Rob Dillingham team, we saw it throughout the year. If they lost to Oakland and they were getting torched by Oakland, they could get torched by any and everybody. It could have been NC State. It could have been Marquette in the next round. It could have been Duke in the Elite Eight if they had made it that far. Now, they could beat anybody and they could score on anybody, but I would lean towards between those two embarrassing first-round NCAA tournament losses, the St. Pete's one actually maybe stopping Kentucky from doing something or hanging a banner or up arena, where the Dillingham-Shepherd team was a lot of fun, but boy, were they flawed. And you saw it on display in that just terrible, terrible night in Pittsburgh.
Peake, I want one more from you, and I'm going to end with maybe the spiciest take I've ever had.
Whoa.
Maybe the spiciest take I've ever had.
Does TJ ever get to pick one, or is it just how I react to you all?
No, none for TJ. I'm teasing my spicy meatball.
No, that's
TJ,
fine. No, that's totally fair. I'll just respond off you all. I did want to add that 04-05 UK team did lose at UNC earlier that year.
They did.
By 13 points. They were down 15 at halftime. So I remembered that one correctly, at least.
There you go.
All right, what's your last one, Pete?
Last one. And Hubert Davis may not be the coach of UNC had Kentucky made the championship game instead of North Carolina. But the last one, I had several to choose from. I'm just going to pick this one. What happens if Van Fleet makes that three in 2014? Because you would have had Kentucky coming off NIT and then 2 to lose in the tournament in 2014. With all of that talent, they get beaten around the 32. It puts a lot. 2014-15 now feels a little bit like might be a little bit more pressure on that team. They're still really talented. Well, but the pressure then becomes like, Cal won a title. Then did he just like rest on his laurels? Like what's going on? How do we go from that to NIT round of 32 and then we're done?
I think to your point though is like I bet a lot of those guys just go pro.
I was wondering that too because I think like going on that run makes you feel like I want to come back and win it.
Like Willie was one of those guys, and Poitras, like there were some guys on that team that were probably going to come back, and I think in Willie's case too, like he liked college, he had the injury, there was probably some unfinished business, but like the getting close and not getting all the way there, that had got the ball rolling for all of those guys returning. So that was my first thought.
The colleagues for
the Cavs. Was that the Cavs job that summer?
I think the Lakers job was the one that got rumored the night of the championship, but I think it was the Cavs job that was the one who's going.
And a lot of people say that he didn't aggressively pursue one of those NBA jobs because the Harrisons were coming back.
Right.
So like,
sure, Cal loved that getting out there.
Oh yeah.
I mean that sincerely. He was probably like, I could have been coaching the Lakers. But both the Lakers. It's like that. I think you should leave. I've got doubles of them. I'm doubles of the Lakers. Very odd reference if you understood it. That's a good one. No, the Wichita State one is. I think you can make a case though that if Wichita State beats UK, that maybe Kentucky goes undefeated the following year.
Well, maybe. I'm so interested in hearing Nick's spicy take.
Because I do think that like Wisconsin, the revenge factor for Wisconsin mattered in 15. The fact that their season was ended in 14 in the Final Four by a group of the same dudes, Decker and Frank Kaminsky were back. They had to live through that. And it was just like, all right, you got them 1 year in a close game. Damn it, they got you the next year in a close game. If you don't have that one year, maybe you don't have that one the second year.
And here's another thing, too. Louisville might have another Final Four banner to take down because
maybe a national championship banner.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not impossible. They beat the snot 3 times out of UConn that year. They could have done it fourth.
I thought back to this is one for a different generation. If Nazir Muhammad just makes some free throws in '97, like,
oh yeah,
sure. Rick Pitino wins back-to-back titles. That would have been awesome. But my big spicy take, and like I actually do mean this with sincerity. A lot of folks will say, "What if Leitner misses the shot?" I actually think that in the grand scheme of things, that was good for Kentucky basketball.
Oh my gosh.
Because that game is not considered the greatest basketball game ever played if it ends with Sean Woods banking one off and then Leitner gets a chance but misses the shot and Kentucky wins. Yes.
Well, great.
Kentucky
So it's
slayed
called
the dragon.
Great. It's the greatest game of all time, and UK lost. Who cares if it wouldn't be called the greatest game of all time? Kentucky would have beaten Duke.
Yes, but they're not going to win a national championship, and you're a part of the greatest game in the history of college basketball. That game will be called the greatest game in the history of college basketball for all time.
Well, it's not even the greatest game in the history of college basketball.
Exactly, but it's called that because of the shot, because of Christian Laettner, because of all the stories, because Rick Pitino resurrected a program that was dead, the proudest program in the sport. Like, that game is held in such high esteem because of the way it ended, and even if if you go back and actually watch it, pound for pound, like one of the highest level played questions out there. Like, it's just like shot making after shot making. Like, it's an awesome game to watch. But the shot really is the exclamation point at the end. And since I didn't have to live through that misery and hell, I'm glad that Kentucky played and it was a part of the greatest game of all time. And it really started as almost like the launching off point for Pitino's turnaround, even though the Bombinos got a lot of credit for it. I think big picture, long term, it's good that Kentucky basketball was a part of that game, even though they were on the losing end of it.
It's just a horrible take. I'm sorry. I like that you tried. It was spicy meatball. You were not wrong about that. UK wins that game. They go to the Final Four in Minneapolis. They're playing Indiana, a team that they've already beaten that season. Good chance you beat them again to go to the national championship game. Taking on a 6-seed Michigan team that you'd have every chance in the world to beat, and it'd be the greatest Kentucky basketball story of all time that was cut short because Laettner should have been thrown out of the game. He's a punk. That game is a mockery, and Roush, you're wrong to have that take. UK could have won the national championship.
I think going to the Final Four with that team, getting a banner out of Pelfrey and Feldhouse and all those guys.
They would have been done. They could have won. They could have won the championship. But just like the house money thing, I don't totally agree with. But yes, you're right, Peake. If you get a banner, then you don't have to hang the jerseys of those.
That's why they did. Yeah. You're right. That's why they did that as a consolation prize. Yeah.
Here's the other part too. As much as we talk about John Higgins, in Jamal Mashburn's last games, Kentucky had the lead before he fouled out, and then he fouls out. Kentucky loses. They lost It was overtime to Michigan in the '93 Final Four, I believe.
It was.
And then Mashburn was fouled out in overtime of the game against Duke too. If you see him on the sideline just like holding on. I think Jamal Mashburn's playing a little bit better defense on Christian Laettner than John Pelfrey. No offense, John Pelfrey.
Guard the inbounds. Also, a take that I have is that 97 Arizona. There was witchcraft, team of destiny, something weird about that. And if I would have been old enough, I probably would have said it going into that game. But they beat UNC by 8 in the Final Four. That was one of their biggest margins of victory in the NCAA tournament, an 8-point Final Four win. They went to overtime against Providence in the Elite Eight. They were lucky to win that game. They only beat Kansas by 3 in the Sweet 16. They were somewhat fortunate to win that game. They avoided an upset in the round of 32 against College of Charleston, defeating them by 4 points and beating South Alabama also by 8 points in the first round. Arizona was lucky to get through each and every one of those games, goes on to win the national championship in 2 overtime games against Providence and against UK, unfortunately. So that's a weird one. Just that's a team of destiny, unfortunately. UK was so much better than they were, too.
Yeah, and that's another one, too. Anthony Epps' 3 was one of the most clutch shots of all time that gets forgotten about because they lost later on. It's like that and the Sparks one. The Sparks one, just the drama of it going, being the third attempt, and it just goes doink, doink, whoosh.
In that 05 game, Ramel Bradley got fouled in midcourt in regulation with the game tied. He got hurt on that play. They subbed Patrick Sparks into the game, and he misses the front end of the bonus. I actually asked Ramel Bradley recently about that, and you know how Ramel is. He just said, I thought Patrick was going to make him, but I know I would have made him.
Well, and everybody thought Patrick was going to make him. It was a free throw.
It's tough though coming off the bench.
Oh, sure.
Coming in, having to, shoot the biggest free throws of the game. It was very late. And of course, he missed some Kentucky. There was also a rebound in that game. Then Morris and who was the walk-on that hit all these clutch threes?
Robbie Moss.
Yeah, how did I forget Robbie Moss? They both go for the ball. It gets knocked out of their hands, and then Michigan State hits a three. It was a 4-point Kentucky lead at the time. I cut it to 1, and then Michigan State, of course.
That was in the second overtime, correct?
That was in the second overtime. Yeah.
So, just the game's there for the taking.
Brutal stuff. This was a lot of fun.
Great segment. Enjoy Mackinac Allen.
Yeah.
Horses, my regards, and have fun on your bike ride, buddy.
All right, we'll do. Thanks, guys.
That's Steven Peake. Piqued your interest. We'll be back for one final segment of Kentucky Roll Call on your Weird Wednesday.
The big story is Vince Morrow. He's headed to the University of Louisville to work for Jeff Brom as the head of player personnel. This is a very interesting time at Kentucky football.
and final segment on your Wednesday. Nick Roush and TJ Walker, thanks again to Steven Peake for joining us for a fun Piqued Your Interest. Just talking hypotheticals in the world of athletics. What could have been, another one I would have mentioned, and it gets brought up frequently, but had Dakari Johnson rightfully returned for that 2016 season, and you've got a three just absolute studs in Jamal Murray, Tyler Ulis, and Dakari Johnson at your 1, 2, and 5. Would have been colossal. Allow more time for development with Scalabissier. Allow him to play his natural position more at the 4, where I think as a college 4, he would have been pretty solid. He started playing well later in the year. That's another big one. I think that team definitely goes to a Final Four if you get a competent big guy in Dakari Johnson with that lineup. But that's another one. Get your text into the show, 502-414-1450, into the Game Day Men's Health text line. We love our friends at Game Day Men's Health. If you're just a little sluggish, not feeling great, you feel like something may just be a little off, GameDayMen'sHealth.com. They will get you figured out, feeling good, feeling right. We need to get Scoots in their program.
No, definitely.
He's been talking about how sluggish he feels, how he needs to lose some weight. He's just kind of tired.
Oh, this is right up Scooter's alley.
Everybody can afford to drop a couple pounds, but yeah, I think he'd feel good. I think something they need to. His peptides are out of whack.
Got to get some more pep in his tides with some peptides. And Game Day Men's Health, sponsors of the Big X Sports Radio text on 502-414-1450 is the number. We'll get to those. But TJ, I got to ask you: Did you enjoy watching the? What did you enjoy more, the Stanley Cup Finals or the brawl in the WNBA game?
I didn't really watch a ton. When I turned on the Stanley Cup Finals, it was 3-0 with like 30 seconds left in the second period, and I was like, uh-oh. Edmonton's going to have to do something absolutely bonkers in the third period if they're going to come out of this one, and I never turned it back on. And it turns out they didn't do anything bonkers. I actually briefly looked for the Fever game on TV. The WNBA team in Indiana where Caitlin Clark plays, and could not find it, although I did find a ton of other WNBA games, so maybe I just missed it or glossed over it, but I couldn't find theirs for whatever reason, which I think that just goes to show how incredible Caitlin Clark is, the fact that I, on a random Tuesday, briefly thought about putting on women's basketball for, however long it would have been. I've never done that in the past, so that goes to show that Caitlin Clark is worth watching. Sure enough, Roush, I wish I would have found it because it was a newsworthy game. She gets to a fight. Is that the one you were talking about?
Yeah. No, it certainly is. Because I just saw a story from the Babylon Bee that no foul called after Anvil falls on Caitlin Clark's head. Which it's because it was great that it felt like they turned a corner in not just the conversation, but the Fever are now a sports team. The WNBA is still doesn't know how to handle it from
gosh, they're botching it. They're botching it.
Because they should have tossed that one girl out of the game. It was pretty easy. There was a hard foul, and then somebody came in and added to the hard foul. It's well, that's just an ejection in most basketball games. But instead, it was a double technical. Both got to stay. But the good news is, and this wasn't the case last year, is the Fever, they brought somebody in who's the enforcer. And Sophie Cunningham, next time down the court, has a chance to get the girl back who fouled Caitlin Clark, just takes her ass out, throws her to the ground, and then puts a girl on the other team in a headlock. And it's not just a regular headlock. It's like the wrestling headlock where you grapple them behind the neck and you stick their forehead in their forehead. It was awesome. I haven't seen men's basketball fights as good as this one, so I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm glad.
Roush getting into a little cat fight, huh?
But they're finally stepping up. That's what you should do in sports. If somebody is targeting your best player, you should go fight them. You got to whoop their ass. That's how sports works. You think that offensive lineman is going to let you get away with the late hit on the quarterback? No, they're not. And the other part of this too is that. I think as a I'm not watching every single Indiana Fever game. Don't get me wrong, But I'm seeing all the highlights, and it finally looks like Caitlin Clark is playing the basketball that she played at Iowa, where she's not afraid to pull from 35 feet with a hand in her face and knock it down. She wasn't really doing that last year. I feel like there was some hesitancy to fit in. Now there's all right, I'm going to be me, and y'all come along the ride with me, and everybody's buying in, and they end up winning by like 30 points. But, hey, WNBA, just don't get excuses for like a large majority of your new fans that hate you because you're not enforcing the rules how they should be enforced and protecting your star player. She just got back from injury, and now you got people like smacking her in the face and then shoving her to the ground. Like, come on, protect your star.
I agree. I think that the people, if you're on the Chicago Liberty Freedom, whatever the fire,
Chicago Sky,
Chicago Sky. If you're somebody on the other team, so if your team is fighting Caitlin Clark,
yes,
somebody needs to be like, hey, I know she's on the other team, but I'm actually going to fight you, my teammate, because she's getting us paid. Like, she's actually allowing this to be a sustainable business that isn't having to just borrow money from the NBA. She actually could be our meal ticket here. Maybe we don't beat her up. Huh? Seem like a good idea, everybody? Like, a high tide raises all boats. We're the highest we've ever been. We've got more water than we know what to do with, baby. Maybe we don't pull the drain on Caitlin Clark and go back to what we were, which was the most unwatchable product in all of sports. But Caitlin Clark has you all being watchable. It's fun. She can pull up from anywhere. She can go to the rim. I think the fact that the opposing teams don't like her make it a little bit more entertaining to watch, but there's a line between not liking somebody and just doing cheap shots any chance seemingly you get. Yeah. And I only see the things that are on social media like you all. It's not like I'm watching every single game.
Mm-hmm.
But I would think the WNBA, we know that the NBA is not afraid to rig things. NBA draft lotteries, stuff like that, not allowing trades to go through because it wouldn't be good for the league, forcing trades to go through because it is good for the league. Hello, Luka. If I was the WNBA, I'd be like, hey, actually, we're not going to even play real defense on her. We're going the other way. Stop trying to hurt her. Play off of her. We need her scoring like 50 points, 60 points a night. We need it looking easy for her because that's what people like to see. They like to see her cook. They don't like to see her get her ass beat. They want to see her cook.
They did end up whooping the Connecticut Sun. They gave him a whooping. And TJ,
all right, we're gonna read the name of the WNBA team.
It was because they play at the Mohegan Sun.
That's why they named him.
Yeah.
Well, and I think in Connecticut, one of the sunniest states in the Union. All right, which one of these are specific to the city of which they are in? And I know you said Connecticut Sun because they play in the Mohegan Sun, but let's
I know what you're going to go with the next one.
I'm just going to go through all of them. Which one is specific to their, just a yay or a nay? Atlanta Dream.
Yeah, it's like MLK's home.
Okay, I get that, but people dream in every city. Chicago Sky. Well, they've got
that one's very...
Sky Tower.
Yeah, no, that one's...
Connecticut Sun. Indiana Fever. What's the fever even supposed to be?
That, I don't know, but...
Racing Fever? Like, racing fever.
I don't know.
All right, New York Liberty, at least geographically, Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, very smart. We're going with Lady Liberty.
Washington Mystics, they do have a cool logo. But what the hell is a Mystic?
Well, the Wizards are I think they're trying to do a double nickname.
Okay, move to Orlando, geeks. Dallas Wings, because there's airports in Dallas. Oh, wow. Only city in America with airports. Way to go, Dallas.
Yeah.
Golden State Valkyries. Women Vikings in San Francisco. I'm surprised the PC Police even allowed that one to go through.
And they're the expansion team too. They're new.
The Las Vegas Aces.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, but that's very fitting.
Okay.
LA Sparks. Not really sure where the Spark is, but
that was
nevertheless
terrible. Minnesota Lynx. At least you're just doing something a little different. Phoenix Mercury. Okay, so you have the Suns and you have the Mercury. Grow up. And then the Seattle Storm. At least fitting because it does rain in Seattle.
And by the way, TJ, that game was on NBA TV, so that's where you can maybe give a check out next time.
Yeah, okay.
They'll have some games on like CBS on the weekends too. That's usually where I end up catching them. They'll put them on the broadcast network. So, but we need to.
Yeah, let's read this game day men's health text line.
Yeah, let's do it.
Horstein Island. they want men to watch women's sports. More fights is the solution. Well, Roush really liked the cats fight, so maybe that is the solution.
In fairness, I am more fights in every sport. Like we have it in hockey, we get it in baseball. Shout out to Cortland's Finnegan and Andre Johnson. That one was awesome. More fights, better sports.
Did you see when Sophie Cunningham was part of that brawl? You already talked about it, but did you see where the male usher or security grazed her behind?
I mean, is he trying to like pull her out of the way?
To the fella, you just want to have his back the entire time. Like he's like, here comes a girl fight spilling over potentially into the stands. He wants to make sure that the fans are safe, but no fans come out onto the court. He wants to make sure that the players don't go into the stands. You want the best intentions for this guy. And then at just the very end of the video, probably just a little bit too long and out of his way, he just goes and grazes Cunningham's butt. It could be a totally fair play, Roush. Like, it could just be totally incidental. It's just he's unfortunate that the camera caught him at that moment. Who was that Michigan dad quarterback, or was it Michigan or some team, where he was caught, like, hugging his girlfriend, his son's girlfriend, and just kept his hand in a spot longer than he should?
Right, yeah, I remember that.
It was not as bad as this, because there actually is a lot of action going on. But I'll try to get you the video before we get off the air and see your thoughts on it.
Christian, my favorite Duke and IU first name for a basketball player. Oh, thanks. This kind of stuff is why young people run from politics. Too much of us versus them. Oh, yeah, nice. We're getting back to the hour number 1 talk. There's no way the mice rodent problem at 2 different Krogers didn't come from the distribution center. Oh, man, that's a great point. Like, they need to be doing an investigation on that, right? Like, you got to make sure that that this isn't, like, spreading to other Krogers.
You think the big mice is just like, we're attacking Kroger!
I mean, hey, they're going right to the center.
We're going to do it! And one mouse is like, do you have a mouse in your pocket? And he's like, yeah, it's just you. Oh, gosh, I'm going to send you this video. You have to watch it before we get off the air. I guess I watched it last night, and when I was watching it, I wanted to give this guy the benefit of the doubt. I think it's just a creepy thing, unfortunately. I think it's just a creepy thing. If it ever lets me send a text message in the studio, you're going to get it. You're going to get it 3 times over, apparently. All right, another texter. Where are we at?
It's the guy in the orange, isn't it?
The guy, I think red, but people could have different proof.
Okay, yeah. Potato, tomato. Where he's trying to do his job, and it's loading up for me right now. And he's, okay, right? You're just trying to keep everybody separate. No, that's fair. No, he's totally.
Oh, I don't think so. I watched it again, and he just keeps it there. And then he almost like his fingers start to kind of grip around the behind a little bit. And then there's this soft graze coming off of it. No, Roush. I strongly disagree. Last night I was on your side, and then when I went back and watched it, I don't know if I just had downplayed it in my head, but I don't know. I think it's too much. It gets a little too comfortable there. Another texter on the Game Day Men's Health text line says, what's up, my favorite radio host? I bet one more yesterday, just keeping you all updated. TJ, you will ask your betting friend if he thinks this is the best bet for the best basketball player first basketball player tomorrow night, the remaining 10 bets, or does he have some other idea?
Okay. But he's got the under in the UCLA-Arkansas game and the over in the Oregon State-Louisville game. And that hit.
I took the over. that was yesterday.
Yeah, so he's alive. That was a plus 266 parlay. Well done, better. You're crushing it with
rolling in it. Love that.
Seriously.
Another texter on the Game Day Men's Health text line. John here. That's awesome, Nick. Keep it up. Jogging and running is probably my least favorite exercise to do. Tell me, KRC, what's your least favorite exercise to do in or out of the gym? We'll get to go talk to you later. I hated when I had to rely on running for like my cardio and exercise.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I don't have to do that, but I've actually started to enjoy running a little bit more, and I've been doing more of it.
I think it just you get bored with things because like I get kind of bored with the stationary bike after a while. I want to like go and see things, so that's what makes running a little bit more exciting for me. So it varies, John. I know it's been brought up before, but I just do not understand how you two will voluntarily go to U of L sporting events in your free time. Why give them your money? I'm going to Louisville and never consider going. I guess just take the rivalry more seriously. Yeah, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. Like, my wife played volleyball there. We'll go to volleyball games with our friends that she played volleyball with. It's not that big of a deal. I also don't go to UK sporting events for fun. Like, I usually go for work. So, like, that's my only chance to go is to maybe one every other year.
Everybody have a great Wednesday. We'll be back maybe tomorrow. Stay tuned. This is Kentucky Roll Call on Big X Sports Radio. DJ Walker,
Big X, AM 1450 and 96.1 FM, WXVW Jeffersonville. W230CK Jeffersonville.
John Spears for M&M Cartage. You see those trucks riding down the road with the M&M Cartage sign? You could be a driver or work as a mechanic on one of those trucks. For 45 years, M&M Cartage has been a